President Cyril Ramaphosa has authorized the Special Investigation Unit to investigate allegations of maladministration, corruption, and fraud in the Office of the Master of the High Court countrywide. Following this proclamation, the Special Investigation Unit is conducting a search and seizure operation from today in all the Master's offices across the country. The investigation was necessitated by several allegations of maladministration and corruption, and the Mpumalanga case wherein it was alleged that an official in the Master's office dipped an amount of 1.7 million through fraudulent activities, which further highlighted the need for an investigation of this nature. As a result, we will be shutting down all the Master's offices across the country to enable the SIU to gather, collate, and retrieve information relevant to the investigation without any hindrance or disturbance. All offices of the Masters will be closed on the 4th of February 2019 and will be reopened on Wednesday, the 5th of February 2020. It's 2020, not 2019. We are fully aware that the Masters office plays a critical role in our communities. It is an office that works for the vulnerable in our communities. It works for orphans, for minor children, for the widowed, for companies in distress, and for various vulnerable groups in our society. We do, however, request members of the public to postpone their intentions to visit the Master's office just for a day. Matters which are urgent and pressing can be escalated to the head office via the local magistrate office for the necessary attention. The investigation will encompass issues of maladministration in relation to the administration of deceased estates, insolvent persons and companies, the protection and administration of the funds of minors, contractually incapacitated and undermined and absent heirs, which have been paid into the Guardian's Fund, the supervision of the administration of companies and close corporations in liquidation, the safeguarding of all documentary material in respect of estates, insolvencies and liquidation, the processing of inquiries by executors, attorneys, beneficiaries and other related parties, and the appointment of executors, trustees, curators, and liquidators. We want a Master's office that will conduct its affairs with integrity in line with the principles of Batupil, never to squander resources meant for the poor and the most vulnerable in society. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, for that readout. Colleagues, I'll now just open for a row of questions as we welcome Mr. Apple. Yes, sir. Please introduce yourself, the media house that you're from, and your question.
Good afternoon, Alex Mitchley from News 24. Just three quick questions. How many Master's offices are there? My last count was 15 across the country. My second question is, now that all these offices will be searched tomorrow, but have they now not been given a warning? So isn't it almost moot?
Then what?
I just want to figure out, are the seizures happening tomorrow whilst the offices are closed? But, I mean, a search and seizure, shouldn't that be a surprise operation? This enables these officers to prepare. I mean, if there's anyone conducting any sort of illegal activity. Thanks.
You said three questions.
Yeah, nice one.
Okay. Any other questions? Minister, I think you can respond to.
Yeah, indeed, there are 15 Master's offices across the country, but the main ones are 9, so the other ones are almost like satellite offices. The issue of the element of surprise when you deal with search and seizure is addressed in the statement. As we speak, the SIU and the relevant authorities have started to conduct the raid. So we are just announcing this to the public so that people don't come to the offices of the Master tomorrow, because we know that the most vulnerable that uses the office of the Master, they use the last cents to either to drive or to use public transport to these offices. So it is important that they are forewarned, that they don't come tomorrow and they find that the offices are closed. And it affects their day-to-day activities. Hence, we are saying, as the SIU takes over from now until the whole day of tomorrow, members of the public should not be inconvenienced, or they should not inconvenience themselves by coming to the master's offices. If there are urgent issues, they could escalate them to the national office of the department, and then in certain instances, in some of the magistrates' courts offices, where they could get some urgent help if there is a need. And because there might be some urgent matters that may arise for families of deceased and various distressed communities out there in society.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Just a request for a one-on-one on this.
Okay, sure. Yes, ma'am.
SABC Media News. It seems as if corruption is very rife at these offices. Can you perhaps just paint us a picture of how big of an issue this is? I mean, if it comes to you having to close all these offices in one day, how big is this issue?
Yeah, no, there is a challenge with regard to this matter. As you will have heard the example we have spoken about Mpumalanga, where there was almost 1.7 million that was siphoned from the funds of most vulnerable in society. And we do receive complaints from time to time across the country. And some of these complaints have also reached Parliament, where the members and the Parliament also wrote a letter to us asking about this issue. And from time to time, you'll receive a complaint from either a master somewhere in Pietermaritzburg or in the Northwest or anywhere in the country where there have been issues that affect and the most vulnerable members of our society, women, men who are women, widowed, orphans. So it's a very serious issue that is of concern to us. Hence, we want to get into the bottom of the matter so that we are able to account properly to the public. If indeed this issue is it's real, there is a real issue of maladministration or of siphoning of these imported funds for the most vulnerable. And indeed, if it is there, it's confirmed, what should be the measures that we are supposed to take, and the outcomes of the investigations and the recommendations will help us to close the gap once and for all, because we do not want the most vulnerable in society to be inconvenienced in any way by our processes. We are supposed to be their guardians, we are supposed to serve them, and we are supposed to be the ones when they come to us, particularly in the master's office, they must find the solace, they must find the comfort. Offense. They can't come to us and we further compound and distress them. In us, they must be able to alleviate their situation. But it's not only the offense, because you will also know that we are also responsible for the issues of liquidations, the curators, insolvency states. So also companies in distress, when we administer some of their affairs, they must also find comfort that their affairs are administered in a manner of integrity that is ethical, and that will also help the country to turn around the economy that we dearly need to turn around.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister. I think this brings us to a close of our press conference. Those of you who want one-on-ones, we'll take those after this. Thank you very much for coming.
All right, so that's the media briefing by the Justice and Correctional Services Minister, Ronald Lamola. This, of course, follows a raid and seizure that happened at the office of the Master of High Court here in Johannesburg. So the minister there basically informing the nation that all offices of the Master of the High Court will shut down tomorrow, which is on the 4th rather, until the 5th of February, and this, of course, will be to allow the Special Investigative Unit to conduct their investigations on this matter. So the minister there saying that he is aware that indeed these officers provide essential services, but he's appealed to the public to postpone their visits so that the office can be able, or rather the SIU can be able to conduct their special investigations. They're saying that they want the officers to conduct themselves, or rather provide services with integrity. That's basically what the minister was telling the nation, that all the offices of the Master of the High Court will be closed on the 4th, but will rather reopen on the 5th of this month.